People. And with that, I'd be glad to take your questions. Margaret.
Sean, good to see you back here. Question for you, too. One on Iran. Will this administration certify Iran's compliance with the nuclear deal?
The JCPOA authority was delegated to the State Department, and the Secretary of Defense, excuse me, the Secretary of State will have an announcement very shortly on that deal. I think you all know that the President has made very clear that he thought this was a bad deal for the United States, and I will wait until the State Department makes further action before going any further.
And secondly, your counterpart in Russia, Dmitry Peskov, who speaks for Vladimir Putin, said today that they expect their properties that were seized by the prior administration to be returned and without any stipulations or attachments to that. Was this discussed with the President? Does the President have a strong view? What is it that the President would like to see in return before handing these properties back?
I know that Secretary Tillerson, that falls under his purview. He has been having discussions, and I would refer you to the State Department for.
This came from Vladimir Putin's office.
I understand that, but in our country right now, the Secretary of State is handling that portfolio, and so I would refer you to them on that.
Did the President bring this up at all in his conversations in Hamburg with Vladimir Putin?
I don't know. I'd be glad to find out on that. I don't believe it did, but I'd be glad to find out. Tolo.
Thank you, Sean. The President tweeted earlier today that most politicians would have gone into the meeting like the one Don Jr. attended in order to get info on an opponent. He said that's politics. His FBI director nominee said that anyone who was approached by a hostile government for opposition research should contact the FBI rather than taking the meeting. Who's right, and what's the White House's position on whether or not it's okay to meet with a hostile government for opposition research?
Well, look, I'm not going to get into the specifics of this, but I will say that that is quite often for people who are given information during the heat of a campaign to ask what that is. That's what simply he did. The President's made it clear through his tweet, and there was nothing that, as far as we know, that would lead anyone to believe that there was anything except for a discussion about adoption of the Majinsky Act. But I would refer you back to counsel on that one.
Okay, and can I ask about counsel about Mark Kasowitz? He was reportedly he exchanged emails with a private citizen with a number of threats and a profanity-laced set of comments. Does the White House and the President still have confidence in Mr. Kasowitz to speak for the administration on this Russian matter?
Yes, he does. And I know Mr. Kasowitz has issued an apology in that matter. Zeke?
Hey, John. First, following up on Toad's question there, the President's tweet this morning regarding the Russia investigation, did Ty Cobb vet that? Could you talk a little bit about his role? Is his job here to manage the President's personal response to the Russia investigation?
Mr. Cobb, as you know, within the counsel's office there are various attorneys that have different portfolios, and while we have outside counsel, a lot of times the requests that we get from this room require us to go to counsel and say, can we answer this question? What can we say or can't we say? You do your best a lot of times to get us to make a case why this should be answered by the White House, and so we end up spending a lot of time talking to the counsel's office about what can and can't be referred to outside counsel, what still remains in our purview. And so it was the decision of the White House to bring someone on board that, like in a lot of other areas that we have counsels dedicated to that, that there was significant interest in the subject to do that.
So in the case of the President's tweet this morning, was that something that went through Mr. Cobb?
I don't believe so.
And one follow on Made in America. You mentioned this Sikorsky helicopter on this park in the South Lawn that would be known as Marine One. Who paid for that to fly here from, I guess, probably Quantico? And also, is it appropriate to use military resources for a political event?
Well, it would be at bowling, is where I believe that's held. But I think we're very proud. I mean, the idea is to showcase this week things that are made in America, and I know Sikorsky and the state of Connecticut are very proud of the fact that they contribute to our national security. That there are, I assume, hundreds, if not thousands, of people whose job depends on that. And I think, like most Americans, we're all proud of the helicopter and other military equipment that so many Americans work tirelessly to do. So, of course, it's appropriate to highlight that. Hunter.
Thank you, Sean. I'm wondering whether you can tell us if Made in America Week will include the Trump Organization or Ivanka Trump brands committing to stop manufacturing wares abroad.
Say that. I'm sorry. If
this, as part of Made in America Week, if the Trump Organization or Ivanka Trump's brands will make any kind of commitment to stop manufacturing gifts, clothes, and other wares abroad.
So there's a couple things that are interesting about that question. First, I think what's really important is the President's agenda, regulatory relief and tax relief, are focused on trying to make sure that all companies can hire here, can expand here, can manufacture here. That's something that he wants for every company, and you've seen him talk about that extensively. With respect to his own companies, obviously it's inappropriate to discuss how anything would affect their own companies. But I can tell you that in some cases, there are certain supply chains or scalability that may not be available in this country. I'm not going to comment on specific products, but I will tell you that the overall arching goal, of course, though, is to grow manufacturing, to grow investment here in the United States, and to grow U.S. workers here. So that remains the overall objective.
Obviously, it might be a sacrifice given certain questions about going rates and stuff. But wouldn't it be sort of a way to show leadership?
Again, it's not appropriate for me to stand up here and comment about a business. I believe that's a little out of bounds. But again, I would go back to the President's broader goal, which is to create investment here, to bring back the manufacturing base. And I think when you look at a lot of these indices that measure confidence, both in terms of CEOs, manufacturers, and they're all-time highs. And I think part of that is that there's a lot of confidence that the President's agenda is going to accomplish that. Charlie?
Just a question about the DHS decision to allow 15,000 new temporary worker visas. How does that not conflict with the President's Hire America message?
Again, I'll refer you to DHS on this, but I think one of the things that you're seeing through this is it's not just the number; it's a lot of the qualifications and a lot of that goes through there to ensure that we are hiring and bringing in the people. As you know, the President has been supportive of the RAISE Act by Senators Cotton and Perdue. which seeks to really look at it more of a merit-based immigration system, and that's something that he continues to push for, and will continue to work with Senators Cotton and Perdue and others to help get that in a place that will focus more on merit-based and really provide the overall reform that he's been talking about for a long time. Dave.
Sean, thanks. What's the White House reaction to the government of Iran announcing that they've sentenced the Chinese-American student from Princeton to 10 years for espionage? And also, could you fill us in on any new sanctions on Iran?
I'm not going to comment on any new sanctions. If there are some, at that point, Treasury would be the one to make that announcement when that's appropriate. Obviously, we're disappointed in that, and with respect to that individual, he is someone that we're keeping an eye on. Yeah.
Thanks, Sean. With regard, I want to ask you about steel tariffs. The president told reporters on the plane last week that he was considering tariffs and quotas with regard to foreign steel.
Right.
This being Made in America Week, can we expect an announcement? Has the president made up his mind on whether he's going to do tariffs, quotas, or both?
I think that the president's comments on Air Force One speak for themselves. When he's ready to make an announcement on that, we'll share that with you. But that is something that the team is still discussing with him. John Decker.
Sean, thanks a lot, Sean. Is the president resigned to the idea that it seems unlikely that the Senate will vote on any type of repeal and replace bill anytime in the immediate future?
I know Senator McConnell has made it clear that he would like Senator McCain back. We obviously wish him a speedy recovery. And as soon as Senator McConnell, as soon as Senator McCain can travel back and Senator McConnell feels it's appropriate, he'll schedule that vote. We feel very confident about where we are now, and we look forward to getting that bill on the president's desk and getting it signed. Jim?
Made in America, I just wanted to ask you a real quick question. I realize you can't speak, as you said, specifically about the President Donald J. Trump organization's companies, but just wanted to get a view from you on what critics are saying about whether the president is the right vessel for this message. After all, he has shirts made in China and Bangladesh and India, other products made, like Trump vodka, made in the Netherlands. So give me a sense, if you could, about whether the president is the right vessel for the message that he's going to deliver later today before the press.
Yeah, I actually look at it in a very different way, which is the president's been a very successful businessman on a number of fronts in a number of areas and industries. And to understand very firsthand what the tax burden and what the regulatory burden do to a business that wants to grow or expand here or hire here. So I think he actually is in a very unique way, understands the challenges that our regulatory system and our tax system put on businesses that want to hire here, that want to grow here, that need scalability and capacity here in a way that maybe isn't because of some of our arcane trade laws or regulations or our tax laws. So I actually think that he's in a very unique way able to talk about the challenges that so many of these companies face as they choose to expand and some of the tariffs and quotas that they face in other markets. You know, I know that some of the stuff you look at a company like Caterpillar who's out there and you talk to them about some of the tariffs that they face going into other countries. When you're talking about an earth mover, you know, a D11 or something else where you're talking about $1 million+ piece of equipment, a 20% tariff is $200,000. So if you're going into a country where our companies are disadvantaged by a huge tariff, that's immediately putting them at a disadvantage. And the president understands what that means to a company that wants to grow and expand throughout the globe and meet new markets and go into other places. So I think he understands it probably very, very uniquely. Fred.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
We'll get to you, Andrew. Don't worry.
Thanks, Sean. A couple questions on the Voter Integrity Commission's meeting on Wednesday. I want to ask you, without full cooperation of all the states, would the commission consider buying some of the registration information, sort of the way campaigns do, or using maybe a private organization like Aristotle International?
Most of this information is available. I mean, all that those companies are doing is buying it from the states. So, I mean, I don't think there'd be any reason to go to a private vendor. I think we should be able to do this utilizing official resources that exist within a state Again, I think there's been some miscommunication on what they're seeking. The Commission has asked us that each state provide that information that is public, that they share. And because that varies from state to state, what they're willing to give out, the Commission was illustrative in its letter in trying to describe what it was looking for. But I think we're going to move forward very well. Trey?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I did have another. And that's there was hacking into voter registration rolls in Illinois, Arizona. We found out recently South Carolina was reported. Is that going to be something the Commission would look into at all?
I think the Commission's got a very broad mandate to make sure that there's the greatest degree of integrity in our voting system and confidence in it. And so I don't want to get ahead of their agenda, but I think all areas like that are going to probably get brought up. But the first meeting's Wednesday. We'll see what comes of it. Trey?
Thanks, Sean. Two foreign policy questions for you. First, what steps is President Trump taking to ensure that the Israelis are comfortable with the U.S. brokered ceasefire in Syria?
So obviously, with respect that you're talking about Prime Minister Netanyahu's comments, one, I would refer you to him to that. But there's a shared interest that we have with Israel, making sure that Iran does not gain a foothold military base-wise in southern Syria. So while we're going to continue those talks, obviously we want to have the productive ceasefire, but we also want to make sure that we're not. One of our other objectives is obviously remains to make sure that Iran does not gain a foothold in southern Syria. So we need to continue to have that discussion with Prime Minister Netanyahu about his concerns, but I think there is a shared goal there. Eamon?
Thanks, Sean. With the health care bill in limbo, what's the administration's plan to move forward on tax reform? Can you do it without having moved on health care first?
Well, obviously, the Senate's still on track to vote, which is great, and the President will sign it as soon as it's as soon as it's possible. We're going to continue to plan. We've had well into the hundreds, if not close to 1,000 listening sessions with different entities, so not the number of entities, not the number of meetings. So they'll continue that outreach, continue to hear with folks. There's been a very robust discussion with House and Senate leadership and the committees of relevant jurisdiction. And we're going to continue that, but we're going to keep moving that along. I expect there will be some activity in August and then into September, but we're still on track to do that, and we hope to have the health care bill completely locked up as soon as Senator McConnell deems it appropriate.
Sean, follow-up.
Kristen.
Thanks, Sean. There is concern among those who support the health care bill that this extension is going to give the opponents of the bill more traction. What specifically is President Trump going to do to try to get this bill over the finish line? What role is he going to play?
Well, I mean, he's been very active on the phone. He's going to continue to meet with senators. I think he'll have some senators over tonight. He's been very active over the weekend. The vice president's been extremely engaged as well. We'll continue those discussions. So, I think we're going to do what we did the last time. The president's going to be engaged. He's going to get this done. And then, it's been said before, but there's no one better than Mitch McConnell when it comes to knowing how and when to make a bill successful in the Senate. So we have every confidence in the majority leader's ability to get this done, and the president will do whatever he has to support those efforts.
And who's coming over tonight? Is it just
I don't have a list for you right now.
And one quickly on Russia. President Trump has referred to the Russia investigation as a hoax, a witch hunt. Given the meeting that Donald Trump Jr. had, does he now acknowledge that the special counsel is a legitimate investigation?
I think Mr. Sekulow answered that question very extensively this weekend.
What would you say?
I think it's been asked and answered. I think we did something to offend Kristen. David Jackson.
Sean, can you tell me how these products were selected in each of the 50 states, and do you know if most of the owners are Trump supporters?
I don't. You're free to ask them. I think the pool will be out there. I think there's some folks, so feel free to talk to them. This was an engagement where we asked for suggestions from governors and members of Congress to give us a list, and then working within the different offices here, an ultimate selection was made. But we saw input from the governors and the congressional delegation.
Sean.
Abby.
Since Friday, the president has tweeted 4 times about health care, but he's also tweeted 6 times about the U.S. Women's Open, which was held at a private property that is owned by his company. So the question is it appropriate for him to essentially advertise his private business using his Twitter feed and his time when comparatively less time is being spent on healthcare, an issue that, as you know, is the most important issue to Americans right now?
Well, I respectfully disagree with that. I mean, in the sense that you sending off a tweet takes, what, 5-10 seconds. As I just mentioned to Kristen, he's been extremely engaged throughout the weekend, making phone calls, talking to folks, meeting with his team, getting updates. So to compare a tweet with a meeting or a phone call of substance is probably a little. But
he did spend a lot of his weekend at the U.S. Women's Open and seemed to be very engaged in it. I mean, the tweets are perhaps a second long, but it seems to indicate what the president is spending his time on. So how do you assure the country that he actually is, in fact, engaged on health care?
Well, I mean, look at
when we know where he was
right.
over the weekend, he's been tweeting about it.
Because I would suggest to you, one, I just told you that he's been extremely engaged in talking to different senators. I know that some of them have mentioned that they had extensive discussions with them. Number two, this is the same group. We got a lot of that it'll never get through the House. He continued to work hard. He continued to be engaged then, and it came out. We continue to do what we have to do, and we'll make it work. But we're going to get this done. We'll go move on. We'll do tax reform. We're going to do infrastructure. The president's got a very robust agenda, and I think when you look at the amount of activity that he's been able to do and the results that he's getting, I think that speaks for itself. Andrew.
Can I ask an American question, Sean?
Yeah,
just
sure.
a quick one. Ivanka Trump's, the head of Ivanka Trump's business said that it is currently not possible to make her products here in the United States. So what is the White House's or this administration's policy remedy for companies like that who say there's just no way to do it? How do they make their products here in America?
I mean, I can't answer that question in the sense that I'm not, but I can tell you that it depends on the product, right? I mean, there are certain industries that we don't do as much anymore, and there's certain things that we do more. I mean, there's a certain thing that, certain aspects of technology and labor, but as I mentioned before, in terms of scalability, there's certain things that we may not have the capacity to do here in terms of having a plant or a factory that can do it. The beautiful thing about a capitalistic society is that if there's enough of a demand for it, it will happen. And I think that's what the president's trying to do, is if you lower the tax rate, if you lower the regulatory burden, you will hopefully grow businesses and grow manufacturing. I've talked to several CEOs and business leaders in the past couple of weeks about tax reform, and it's amazing how many of them tell you that they pay the 35% rate, and you say to them, what will you do if that rate drops? And the number one thing they talk about is they're going to invest and build more in their company. And I think that's what we need to do. But some lines, some industries, some products may not have the scalability or the demand here in this country. But like so many other things, that if that demand if there's enough of a demand, then hopefully someone builds a factory and does it. But we've seen that, in your own industry, where you saw the decline of newspapers, for example, and you've seen a lot more online content and online publications. That's, the evolution sometimes of some industries. But I'm sure somewhere around the world, the newspapers still get delivered every day, in a much greater way than they do here.
Is it appropriate if there's no, in the case of Ivanka Trump's businesses, handbags, shirts, purses, whatever, if there's no capacity, is it appropriate to make those things overseas?
Well, think about all of the things that we buy every day. Of course, there's a market, because we depend in this country for so many goods and services, some of which are made in America, some of which aren't. Obviously, we want to create an environment in which more things are made here, more things are exported from here, and that's what the president's agenda sets out to do. So, I got to go to the birthday girl, Kayla. Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah.
Sarah. Oh, thanks. It's not my birthday.
No, I don't even want to get into it. It's Kayla's birthday. She's not here. I saw Amen. I thought CNBC. My apologies.
I'll take a second question.
Yeah, you already. And then I'll go to you.
Back to the JCPOA, I
Yeah.
know you don't want to get ahead of the announcement about the recertification, but the administration has been reviewing it for some time now, even though the president has already made definitive statements about what he thinks should be done on the Iran deal. So did he make those statements without having sufficient information about the Iran deal, or is the review ongoing because he's open to changing his position on the Iran deal if new information came to light?
I've got to say, I think the president from throughout the campaign until now has made very clear that he thinks it's a bad deal. And initially he recertified it because they were, because he was had the luxury of having an entire team here, both from state, national, DOD, NSC, to review it. That time is up, and state will make its announcement very shortly. But I think he's been very consistent with the fact that he thought it was a bad deal. So, Andrew.
Thank you, Sean. 2 questions and a short follow-up. When the president took office, one of the things he ordered was a 90-day cybersecurity review. That deadline came and went. It's been several months. Can you update us on where that report is? Has it been completed? And if it hasn't been completed, why?
I will get back to you on the report. He did sign an executive order on cyber, making sure that we have the resources necessary to protect our key critical infrastructure.
Right. And the same question. Last week there was a large online day of action on net neutrality, organized and participated by many of the largest companies in America, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, a lot of the technology economy that's driving the U.S. economy. Granted, the FCC is an independent agency, but does the president believe that network neutrality is an important thing and an open internet is important to the American economy?
Well, again, as you noted, the FCC is an independent agency. I would refer you to them with respect to House. I have not addressed net neutrality specifically.
Can you get back to it?
I will definitely get back to you, Katie.
Thanks, Sean. The Ukrainian government reportedly went into damage control mode in an effort to make amends when President Trump won the election after working with DNC Clinton administration officials to undermine his candidacy. Was this an issue that was discussed during President Poroshenko's visits to the White House in June? And has the president discussed it with him?
I actually, that's an interesting question. I will have to get back to you. Obviously, there's been a lot more interest in recent days with respect to what the DNC did in coordination with the Ukrainian government to try to collude and achieve a goal of having someone removed, which ultimately did happen. So I don't know whether that came up with the president. I'd be glad to look into the call. I know that story and the DNC's collusion with the Ukrainian government has definitely gotten a lot more attention since that meeting. So I'm not sure that it was necessarily topical at the time. But now that there's been renewed interest in what the DNC did, I'm glad to look further.
Sean, what the DNC did have any impact on this administration's policies towards Ukraine?
I don't. It wasn't something that was discussed at the time of the visit that I'm aware of. I'd be glad to follow up and find out whether that did come up. But again, my only point is that at the time of the visit, I don't believe it was as topical as it is now. George.
At a briefing last month, you said you didn't believe the president factored in, when he made a trip, what his popularity is in that country. Now we have a report of a transcript of a conversation between Prime Minister May and the president in which he asked her to quote-unquote fix his popularity so he gets a better reception. Do you have any reason to doubt the accuracy of that transcript, that conversation took place, and do you still believe that he doesn't factor in his popularity?
I believe that I'm not going to comment on rumored leaked conversations. I will say that he was pleased to accept Her Majesty's invitation and looks forward to visiting the United Kingdom. Ken.
North Korea, South Korea has offered to hold talks.
Right.
What's the president's view of that? Are there certain conditions that the president would like to see met before those talks take place?
Well, obviously, those comments came out of the Republic of Korea, and I would refer you back to them. That being said, I think the president's been clear in the past with respect that any type of conditions that would have to be met are clearly far away from where we are now. Jeff.
Sean, has the White House been monitoring the demonstrations in Venezuela? Do you have any reaction to that?
Yeah, we obviously are concerned about that. We've been watching what's been going on. We congratulate the Venezuelan people for the huge turnout in the referendum yesterday and the unmistakable statement that they made, that they delivered to their government. We condemn the violence inflicted by government thugs against innocent voters and efforts by the government to erode democracy in Venezuela. We once again call for the Constituent Assembly of July 30th to be canceled and for free and fair elections to be scheduled.
One follow-up on Iran. A senior commander in Iran's Revolutionary Guard said today that if the United States designated the group a terrorist organization and applied new sanctions, that it would be perilous for U.S. forces in the region. Do you have a reaction to that?
I don't think our forces will ever be. What was the word?
peril?
No. I think our forces are the greatest fighting machine in the world, and we'll do everything we can to protect our country and to make sure that we extinguish any threats that we face. Thank you, guys. Hope to have you get a good look at what's going on outside, and the pool will do a great job. Thanks.
All right, folks, so that was Sean Spicer, the press briefing gaggle that happened today. Thank you very much for joining us and choosing us as your stream of choice. If you are new, subscribe to the channel. We encourage you to join the community, and we welcome you. Again, please check out our website, goldenstatetimes.com, to stay up to date on everything when it comes to news articles, news videos, live streams, and all that stuff. We'll be updating everyone that signs up every single day, every single morning. You'll get and make sure that you guys are up to date on everything. So make sure to go and check it out, goldenstatetimes.com. So thank you very much, everyone, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.